Welcome to the show. After the show, what happens right after the show? Cheers.
You know, I think I start on different sides. I have a consistent song start position.
Have you found that since doing this, you've gotten a lot better at slow-mo running? Dun, 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 dun,
I don't think I have found that.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, so Mandalorian. Are you excited? I can tell by the way you're slow-mo running.
Yes, I'm very excited. I've been looking forward. It's one of those things that, like, it was kind of creeping up on me all week. I was like, yeah, Disney Plus is coming. And I was like, I'm really excited about The Mandalorian.
Oh,
I was telling Beth, like, Disney Plus is coming out tomorrow. We are watching The Mandalorian tonight. Like, do not make other plans. That's what's happening.
Right. So it's like one of those like moments where it's like I'm like laying down like my one request where like, you know, I'm always on board for whatever, but tomorrow this is what we're doing.
This is what's happening. This is important.
So I think I've been like excited but also very nervous about it. I think with so much Star Wars stuff, it's like I like Rogue One as a movie. I think Solo is okay. You know, but like you sort of get this really weird mixed bag when it comes to anything Star Wars. Like it's just like the people who made it popular or the people who are trying to like recreate it, like nobody can really figure out what was just so right the first time. And so you sort of get like this constant like ping pong battle of like, you know, we need to be all special effects. And it's like, no, you know, the special effects don't really make it any better. Like, we don't need to be that guy.
Right.
And then they're like, let's recreate the other things again. And then people are like, oh, but it's the same thing as the first time. And I don't know. Everybody's always upset about Star Wars. It's so hard to get it right.
It is. It is hard to get it right. Because it's like, oh, we'll include these things from the originals because that's what people like. And it's like, well, they just like added atmosphere to the originals, you know. It's like we just want atmosphere,
right? You don't need like blue milk everywhere just because there was blue milk that one time.
You don't need blue, but it's also so tricky because, like, in order for like a different Star Wars series to stand, it feels like it needs to be taking place within the general main episode timelines.
Sure,
but the issue is that when you're doing that, the stakes are zero because you know how it ends.
Right.
So the great way to go about this, though, and what I think the Clone Wars really excelled at, because there's sometimes when you're watching the Clone Wars and you're just like, it doesn't matter who wins the fight because Palpatine's winning either way.
Right.
But what is really good is if you can explore the different aspects of the universe just so that you get like more background. Like that's what it's really an opportunity to do for Star Wars. And I think they have done a really great job with just the premise for this show because it's taking place between 6 and 7, right? So there is a lot of unfilled information in terms of like how did the First Order rise.
Sure.
I doubt we totally just see that or anything. But you also have this little now baby Yoda dude, right? And it's great because so much of what people like in Star Wars is the Force and the Jedis and the lightsabers and stuff.
Yep.
And this show managed to be good Star Wars without the Force and without lightsabers. Like, my game, whenever I watch any new Star Wars stuff, is how long until the lightsaber comes out.
Sure.
People have to have the lightsaber. They just, like, I get it. Lightsabers are awesome. But they didn't do it in this one. And I think they found a way to keep the Force around in the form of this baby, and I assume it's gonna like burst out of it like a young wizard or something. Like emotionally it might cause havoc to stuff.
That's the thing is that it's a living organism, so we treat it as such. We will treat it as something we care about that can't be damaged. It's not like a kyber crystal. It's not like an old medallion or a compass or something weird.
Yeah.
It's like it's something tangible that we can care about, like an organic being.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't really have like its own motives or thoughts or like reason behind really doing anything at all because it's so young.
Baby.
Right.
But you can also have several years of it without it growing up at all, because it's a slow aging process.
Right. So it allows for the entity of this small Yoda creature to be super important without it necessarily, like, and it can be even a factor. Like if they're all on a ship and it gets really stressed out, it can like protect the ship or make the ship do something that like it didn't think it could do. But it's not something that's always going to be happening as like a byproduct of this like OP character in play.
You can't like rely on it and be like, "Well, Yoda, help us out of this jam." He's just gonna be like, "Blah, blah, blah, Blah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's good Yoda speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was even backwards babble. You probably couldn't tell, but
Nice,
it
yeah,
was.
Yeah. So no, I'm very curious to see what they do with it. I very much liked the episode 1 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I feel like it was super fun.
I liked it. I liked it. I wonder if it'll be like a recurring theme that like IG-11 is always dying, or something. Like he's like always getting rebuilt or something.
I could see that.
That would be kind of funny.
It would help offer some element of like how he slowly sort of becomes like best buds with the Mandalorian.
Sure.
Like each reincarnation of him, he's like built with a little bit, like, I don't know, it sort of adds like a sense of love or brotherhood between the two. In that like a machine could develop like, an emotional attachment to,
for sure,
to the Mandalorian.
Yeah. Do you think 100% IG-11 will come back?
I feel like he will. He was very likable. He was very cool.
Yeah. The way he fights is really cool.
Yeah, like, and that was sort of the interesting thing. So like when he first started coming out, like you even, because I remember the IG-88 action figure and he had this head with all these little things. I never thought of all the little nodules sticking out of it as eyes.
Oh, okay.
Like as if like he could swivel and like look that way and this way and this way and that way and like, be taking in all this information and shooting perfectly accurately without recoil like all at once.
Like arms that can move independent of each other or its body to where it needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, what a fun way to animate this droid.
It's a very well thought out, like the mechanics of him are very well thought out.
Yeah. I love that they introduce him first and foremost as extremely deadly, but then like in the middle of the fight, he's like really concerned about his own vanity and like his reputation. He's like, I will receive the reputation points for this, yes? And it's like, look, it's not important right now. I need an affirmative right now.
I need an answer.
Yeah, like, okay, just like, you're ruining it. You're gonna get killed.
Right. So that was interesting too, because like you see him come in and it's like, wow, this guy's like so good. But then you could also kind of understand how like the Mandalorian might be like a more dangerous entity outside of walking into a field of like a whole bunch of, faceless gunners, guards, whatever, that are just gonna die. Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
I'm glad they weren't stormtroopers though.
Oh, me too.
I felt like that was nice, like to have some other,
Oh, well, so it's interesting because like they were sort of the bad guys in terms of they were in the way of the main character, but like he's working for the Empire at the moment, so it's like, were they good guys?
That's a good. That's a good point. I had that same thought. Yeah, where like. How are we supposed to feel about these dudes?
Yeah.
Like, are they? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too, though, is I couldn't quite figure out if the guy that like sends him on the mission is he in fact remnant of the Empire, or is he like sort of his own entity that's like taking the banner of it as like his own? Because even the stormtroopers look pretty damn like borderline creepy.
They look pretty beat up.
Yeah, I mean, they do not look like those are brand new helmets or anything.
No. Well, this is like 4 years since the second Death Star would have blown up.
Okay.
So if they're still wearing the same uniforms, like they're pretty old at this point.
Sure.
Yeah. So another question we didn't even get to in the video is, do you think IG-11 was sent by that guy's like doctor assistant?
Oh, so I think the doctor assistant is going to be the villain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll both be villainous, but I think this guy thinks he's in charge, but actually
the other guy
is pulling even more strings.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit of like brains and brawn. Like, the doctor dude is like, he doesn't have the strength. If you point a gun at him, he's terrified. Like, he doesn't want to get shot.
Yeah.
But I bet he's more like mastermindy.
Yeah. Well, because he was just like kill it, and that's what IG-11 was there to do. It's like he had specifically different instructions. It seems like he went underneath his commander's nose to send out a second bounty hunter.
Okay, so
well,
the doctor guy wanted him alive.
Oh, is that right?
I think the doctor guy wants him alive.
Sorry.
Yeah. So
never mind.
Yeah, the
reverse that.
Yeah. So there's some question of that. Like, clearly there's going to be lots of entities that either. I bet it's going to be a split party where some people think they can manipulate it and turn this like powerful force into a weapon for themselves, and other people are like, it's too much of a threat. Just
So maybe the doctor could be converted to good guy then.
Oh,
in a way.
Interesting.
And other officer just sort of becomes generic Star Wars bad guy.
Well, I definitely think that the Mandalorian is going to be interesting because I think he himself is going to, I think his backstory is going to play in tremendously into everything that's happening. Like, for one, I don't think he's a true Mandalorian. I think he's been trained by the Mandalorians.
They are pulling so many great trickeries on you and, like, hiding them with, like, lore. They're like, oh yeah, Mandalorians never take their helmet off, so, like, that's why he's not doing it. But, so you're just like, oh, that's just why he's not doing it, because he's a Mandalorian. But, like, so you're not expecting their, like, if they don't say that, you're sort of just, like, waiting for the reveal of what he looks like.
Sure.
But now the reveal will almost certainly also indicate, like, something else, like something important. It's not just what he looks like. Like, that was always sort of the problem. Like, I remember in The Force Awakens when Ben Solo takes his helmet off, it's sort of like, what was sort of surprising about it was, like, you never see people take their helmets off, but you're just like, what he looks like isn't like, oh, it's him, you know? It's just like, oh, that's just what Kylo Ren looks like.
Right. Yeah, like, it wasn't like a grand reveal that he was maybe other than just a kid.
Right, sure.
Younger person.
Maybe. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it's like, his helmet almost certainly will come off eventually, because certainly Pedro Pascal's agent's going to want him to get screen time.
I hate thinking like that, though. It's so frustrating to me when I let the talent industry infiltrate the way that I expect things to go.
See, but this is what's interesting. I was thinking about it, is that the whole thing is, like, written and directed by Jon Favreau.
Yep.
And, like, the reason, like, inner helmet face cam is so popular is because of Iron Man, which he was also super involved in.
Yes.
So, like, I feel like
he was the director of Iron Man.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like he understands this, like, power, and it's very intentional. But, like, yeah, I wonder what, like, the agreements looked like for how many episodes he's allowed to not take his helmet off for or something.
Sure.
I want it to be the very last thing that happens in the whole season.
See, but this is where I was actually disappointed where The Last Jedi handled this, is Gwendolyn Christie, who played Phasma, had the same thing. Mm-hmm. Where you've got, like, a pretty big ticket, especially right now with Game of Thrones, actress playing basically a shell. Like, you can't see her. Like, why you could literally get any tall person to be inside of that helmet for all the character did. Yeah. And then have any talented voice actor voice them.
That's what, like, Darth Vader is this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
It's like the guy walking around in the suit doing all the fights, that's one guy. The guy but it's not the same guy whose face you see when they take his helmet off.
Right.
And it's not the same guy and neither of them is who's providing the voice.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, James Earl Jones. So it's very cool, like, that you can do that kind of stuff.
You absolutely can, yeah. So that's where I kept thinking, like, that Gwendolyn Christie or Captain Phasma was going to ultimately, like, turn ship or whatever, because it was like, because, helmet on, she's evil, helmet off, she's good.
Yeah. All they gave her was, like, you can see her eye through the helmet.
Right.
But that was her.
It was her. It definitely was her.
And I think it's her in the armor at all times.
It would be stupid if it wasn't.
Yeah.
She doesn't play it.
It's like she's just voice acting. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, anyway. Man, this is
a long show after the show.
We basically did like a small review and predictions list.
Even as we started this, I was like, this is why we need a podcast. Because, like, right now, I have so many Mandalorian thoughts, and we could probably talk about it for much longer.
Well, let's just turn on a different microphone. Anyway, guys, thank you for support on Patreon. Until next time.
Bye!